They saw a slow-moving silhouette on sonar, probably a fuel barge, they said. 7 minutes later, the Red Sea lit up like a circuit board, and every commander with a headset realized something unthinkable had just happened. April 2025. Dawn rolls across the Red Sea in bands of bronze and rose. On paper, there's a ceasefire, no missile salvos, no airstrikes, just a grudging halt after months of drone duels. But paper doesn't seal the water. Beneath that glassy surface, a U.S. Navy attack submarine, USS New Mexico, glides at 230 feet. Reactor humming, crew watching screens that never sleep. Half a nautical mile away, a Houthi coastal team tracks a faint sonar ping. The channel is busy with aid barges, so they tag it logistics. Nothing strategic. Or so they think. Yet the moment feels wired with static. The Houthis have flaunted underwater drones since early 2024, when CENTCOM blew one out of the water and warned the world the game had changed. Axios' years of Iranian tutoring forged a new playbook. If you can't beat a carrier group in the sky, stalk it from below. Tonight, that playbook gets its first live test. They wheel out Al-Qaria, a torpedo-length robot painted dull sand, batteries topped, warhead sleepy, but patient. Iranian engineers call it a one-way attack UUV. Western analysts call it a $20,000 sea mine with a brain. It's Houthi. It can cruise at 4 knots, track magnetic signatures, and detonate on proximity. Perfect for lumbering freighters, suicidal against a hunter-killer sub. But the operators don't know they're looking at a sub. They see only tonnage. Orders scroll across a rugged tablet. Launch, acquire, impact within 900 seconds. Water swallows the drone. Prop shafts spin. A beige husk becomes a guided threat slicing toward coordinates no ceasefire ever mentioned. On the Ike's flag bridge, officers cluster around screens alive with scrolling green data. One line matters: submarine contact, hull proximity confirmed. Carrier radars spool, destroyers light off sonar, and 2 EA-18G Growlers already on station pivot south, ready to jam every Houthi frequency from HF chatter to sat phone uplinks. Rules of engagement are clear. Strike packages may be launched the instant a strategic asset is touched, even during a ceasefire, so long as the response is targeted, proportional, and fast. That doctrine comes from centuries of sea control philosophy. Deterrence through certainty. Operation Deep Pinpoint moves like muscle memory. VLS hatches on USS Gravely yaw open. Tomahawks leap skyward before anyone hears their roar. 24 seconds later, a Hawkeye circumnavigates the battle space, painting safe corridors for incoming strike jets. Growlers lace the spectrum with digital poison. Total duration: 6 minutes 43 seconds, plus or minus the time it takes for shocked ground crews to realize the sky is falling. And then, as quickly as it started, radios fall silent. Satellites capture thermal blooms still pulsing on the Yemeni coast. MQ-4C Triton drones sweep overhead. Their feeds stitch a picture the world never sees. Pickup trucks racing inland, cell towers dark, one lone flare of small arms fire dying in coastal scrub. Inside Yemen's encrypted net, confusion reigns. Commanders can't raise the drone unit. Field officers switch SIM cards, some ditch radios entirely. For 12 hours, there isn't a single new missile launch across the Houthis' entire littoral. Oil insurers take note. Rates for Red Sea transit spiked by 9% overnight. Cairo's morning papers report limited U.S. defensive action, a phrase that says everything and nothing. Tehran's state media runs archival footage of patriotic parades. The real conversation is happening off-camera, in diplomatic back channels suddenly buzzing with phrases like uncontrolled escalation vector and plausible deniability shattered. Did the Houthis know they were aiming at a submarine? Maybe. Maybe not. In submarine warfare, intent matters less than capability. The moment you prove you can put an explosive drone within arm's reach of a nuclear-powered sub, you redraw every risk map in the Pentagon. One budget DIY drone versus a $2.8 billion vessel, it's the David and Goliath cost curve that keeps admirals awake at 0300. And the US response? It isn't about revenge, it's about message discipline. If a hostile actor even brushes a strategic platform, the hammer falls immediately, surgically, and beyond local air defense reach. That certainty prevents miscalculations from turning into wars, most of the time. Underwater drones are multiplying. Cheap lithium batteries, open-source nav software, and 3D printed shrouds mean insurgents can build fleets in workshops. Today their range is measured in tens of miles. Tomorrow, with better batteries, they'll haunt entire sea lanes. Commercial sonar isn't tuned for such small profiles. Even advanced navies admit detection is challenging. Think of it, a global commons where every tanker, cable ship, or submarine has to assume the water around it could hide a silent 6-foot assassin. Nations will rush to develop counter-UUV nets, high-frequency sonars, and kinetic interceptors. But technology leaps both ways, and offense is cheaper. Maybe tonight's strike resets deterrence. For now, maybe it's only the opening chapter in a quieter, darker arms race written below the waves. The Red Sea proved one lesson. The difference between calm shipping lanes and international crisis can be the thickness of a rubber acoustic tile. Cargo captains plying the Bab el-Mandeb felt the aftershocks long before the newspapers caught on. AIS trackers showed an overnight dogleg in freighter routes. Ships carving an extra 50 nautical miles west to hug the Eritrean coast, burning more fuel just to keep a buffer from Yemeni waters. Suez Canal Authority dispatchers logged a 12% dip in southbound manifests that week, a slump big enough to shave millions from Egypt's daily toll revenue. Insurance underwriters reacted on instinct, slapping a war risk premium on every hull transiting the choke point. For Maersk or CMA CGM, that added almost $35,000 per passage. Pocket change to a mega conglomerate, make or break money to smaller flags of convenience. Numbers tell a story strategy papers often skip. When the waterway narrows, currencies feel the constriction. Brent crude ticked up 4% in a single session, not because tankers had been sunk, but because the market finally glimpsed how fragile the pipeline truly is. One UUV, one scratch, one retaliatory strike, and suddenly 6.2 million barrels per day swing on whether ceasefire clauses mention the word submarine. Back aboard USS New Mexico, damage control techs run gloved fingers over the hull coating. The scrape measures less than a credit card's thickness, but the signal it broadcasts to fleet maintenance teams is thunderous. The future enemy isn't always a rival super sub bristling with torpedoes. Sometimes it's a homeschooled robot powered by motors you can buy online. New Mexico's crew records every millisecond of sensor data, feeding it to acoustic modeling labs in Newport and Dahlgren. Engineers will pore over the waveform, tweaking algorithms so the next time a drone thinks it can sneak in, the sub will hear it 10 minutes earlier. Culture shifts too. In mess decks, sailors joke about Roomba-class torpedoes, but their laughter carries an edge. Veterans who spent careers stalking diesel electrics under Arctic ice now drill against threats smaller than a blue whale calf. Anti-drone countermeasures become coffee break chatter. Super cav bubbles, mini torpedo interceptors, even low-frequency acoustic jammers that make lithium batteries overheat. What sounded like science fiction a year ago is suddenly the syllabus for next month's workups. Hundreds of miles away, in a windowless room beneath Tehran's Ministry of Defense, analysts replay satellite clips of the smoldering Yemeni launch shed. They count craters, trace scorch marks, and, crucially, note the pinpoint accuracy. A tomahawk falling through a single ventilation slit? That's a message tucked into high explosive. We can find your toys. We can delete them. Iranian naval planners now face a thorny calculus. Supplying Houthis with UUV kits carries propaganda dividends. David versus Goliath, optics, asymmetric buzz. But every kit is also a homing beacon that can bring US ordnance screaming back the moment it's activated. Support too openly and you risk drawing a retaliatory strike on Iranian soil. Support too timidly and your proxy's deterrent evaporates. The Revolutionary Guard's maritime wing drafts a new doctrine overnight. Disperse fabrication nodes, cloak telemetry bursts in civilian packet chatter, and, above all, distance Iran plausibly from launch fingerprints. Denial is as much a weapon as the drone itself. Meanwhile, at US Fleet Cyber Command, code slingers run Escalation Cascade VI 6.1, a predictive model that crunches social media sentiment, shipping logs, and regional radar upticks. The algorithm spits out branching timelines, containment path. No further drone launches for 90 days. Ceasefire formalized. Premiums normalize within a quarter. Shadow skirmish. Houthis fields smaller, less traceable drones. Tit-for-tat strikes stay below CNN's crawl, but keep insurers jumpy. Breakout scenario. A drone detonates on contact. US conducts sustained week-long suppression campaign. Tehran threatens Hormuz closure. Historically, 52% of similar incidents follow the second pathway. Commanders bet on shadows because open war costs everyone. Yet the presence of nuclear-powered subs nudges odds towards Scenario 3, the breakout nobody wants, but everyone must wargame. The AI model closes with a chilling line. Unmanned lethality lowers decision thresholds by 27%. Translation. Cheap robots make it easier to risk a swing at giants. Older submariners watching this drama play out feel déjà vu wrapped in irony. During the Cold War, a collision between USS Nashville and Soviet sub K-129 nearly sparked an unreported crisis. Both navies hushed it up to prevent escalation. The difference then, steel-hulled behemoths misread each other in the darkness. Today, humans may never meet. The duel happens between code and circuitry, yet the strategic stakes mirror 1980. Silence is still sanctuary, and every compromise of that silence is a knife through deterrence. Naval historians point out another parallel. In 1914, the first successful sinking of a battleship by submarine, HMS Pathfinder, ripped up maritime doctrines ashore in London, Berlin, Washington. A century later, the first confirmed kill of a nuclear sub by unmanned drone would do the same, only faster, globalized, live-streamed, and wildly politicized. We talk about tankers and warships because they draw headlines, but the seabed is cluttered with a quieter treasure. Fiber optic cables that shepherd 95% of the planet's internet traffic. Map those cables and you'll trace the same choke points submariners patrol. Straits of Hormuz, Malacca, Bab el-Mandeb. Replace a tanker with a drone swarm directed at data lines and the casualty list shifts from barrels of oil to terabytes of trade. Financial laneways, stock exchanges, remote surgeries, all hang by strands of glass the width of a garden hose. After New Mexico's scrape, U.S. Cyber Command quietly orders a risk review on undersea cable landing sites along the Arabian Peninsula. The question isn't merely, can a UUV cut glass? A shaped charge makes that trivial, but can we detect it in time to switch traffic and prevent a $1 trillion sneeze on Wall Street? The Navy's answer: deploy seabed sensors, quadruple patrol hours, and, controversially, start experimenting with armed guard bots tethered near high-value junctions. The ocean floor may soon resemble a silent minefield of sentry AIs, each waiting for a metallic shadow that smells of lithium ion. Washington isn't alone in the scramble. French frigates escorting EU-flagged container ships now carry prototype DCL, Detecteur de Cibles Lentes sonar pods optimized for objects under 4 meters. The Royal Navy revives Project Cerberus, Research Parbewater Murberry, an abandoned 2019 effort to network autonomous surface vessels as mobile tripwires. Even India offers patrol craft to Kenya and Djibouti, framing it as a South-South security partnership, but everyone knows the cargo on deck: towed array sensors and depth-charge drones. A coalition against subsea insurgency is forming, not through treaties, but insurance premiums and shared fear. Remember the strike's brevity, 6 minutes 43 seconds. Military theorists label that a compressive episode, a punch so fast adversaries can't coordinate a response before the next decision point arrives. Compressive warfare isn't new. Fighter pilots live by it. What's startling is its migration underwater, where moves once played out in hours. Compression short-circuits diplomacy because diplomats need time. It thrusts frontline commanders into roles once handled by cabinet ministers. When the enemy can scratch a submarine in seconds, your reply must fly even faster, or you risk inviting a second hit. Velocity becomes both shield and spotlight. Move too slow, you bleed. Move too fast, you could stumble into the war you sought to prevent. International maritime law lags decades behind sky drones, let alone sea drones. The Montreux document, San Remo manual, UNCLOS. They whisper about mines, piracy, submerged flag states, but never imagined a plywood-framed torpedo driven by commodity AI. Lawyers now wrestle with nightmare hypotheticals. If an autonomous drone accidentally crosses into neutral territorial waters while hunting a sub, has it violated sovereignty, or does intent vanish when code pilots the hull? Can a state claim self-defense if the attacker is software with no return address? Some call for a Geneva-style convention on unmanned maritime weapons. Others scoff. No treaty survived the first torpedo, so why would silicon-guided ones be any different? In committee rooms, negotiators debate clauses, while outside, defense contractors demo faster prototypes. The race between law and lethality looks less like a marathon, more like a relay where legislation fumbles the baton before tech sprints miles ahead. Picture the Red Sea 5 years from now. A U.S. carrier group still patrols, but its outer screen isn't destroyers. It's a ring of solar-powered wave gliders towing high-resolution sonars, each relaying live feeds through space-based laser comms. Beneath them, swarms of micro-AUV interceptors lurk, programmed to ram anything that matches the acoustic fingerprint of an Al-Qaria. The submarine at the center remains unseen, but its nervous system sprawls 360 degrees. Digital nerves feeding a command brain that no single missile can blind. On the opposite shore, militant engineers hunch over laptops, compiling open-source blueprints for sepia filter evasion suites, algorithms that morph propulsion signatures to slip past machine learning classifiers. It's chess, but the pieces build themselves overnight. Advantage flips with every GitHub commit. Amid circuitry and doctrine, don't forget the 19-year-old sonar tech who first heard the drone. She joined the Navy to study oceanography, not wage algorithmic war. Yet her quiet, "Sir, new contact bearing 210 may have prevented a billion-dollar casualty in a regional spiral." Warfare changes, but the hinge moments still ride on human attention. The lone mind that notices the odd ping, the petty officer who trusts her gut and speaks up. Navies invest billions in steel, reactors, and code, but ask any skipper and he'll tell you, The sharpest weapon is still a crew that cares enough to catch the anomaly. Robots extend reach, shrink decision loops. But vigilance, the habit of staring into gray noise and spotting the wolf's shadow, remains resolutely, stubbornly human. So where does that leave us? Sailing into a century where a plastic house drone can redraw geopolitical lines. Maybe the future isn't about bigger fleets or thicker armor. Maybe it's about faster senses, smarter filters, and a willingness to draw red lines before silicon crosses them. The sea has always been mankind's open frontier. Now it's filling with things that don't breathe, don't sleep, and don't weigh cost against consequence. If you were that sonar tech, would you trust the AI classifier enough to postpone calling the captain? If you commanded the carrier group, would you fire tomahawks on a hunch, small as a scrape of rubber? Decisions like those define decades. Tell us below, should the world negotiate a moratorium on lethal undersea drones, or is the genie already so deep in the water we can only learn to swim faster? If today's story opened your eyes, hit like so others surface this video in their feed. Smash subscribe for weekly briefings straight from the Silent Service's new front lines. And if you crave deeper dives, unfiltered interviews with sub-vets, 3D breakdowns of next-gen drones, members-only mission maps, join the channel fleet. Your support keeps our periscope clear. Until we sail again, remember, in an ocean where even whispers leave wakes, the quietest noise can launch the loudest storm. Stay sharp, stay curious, and above all, stay unseen.